welcome to the Intuitive Sheepdog Podcast, newly updated and still just as badass with your host, me, Autumn Schmidt. I'm excited to have you here as always. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Your support means a ton to me on this podcast. I'd like to shout out quickly to our podcast sponsor at The Badge Life. If you have not checked them out, go on to Instagram, check them out. They have the dopest, coolest can you see I'm trying to be gangster, but I'm really not, but in my head I am. Anyways, they have like really cool clothing and for sheepdogs, all sheepdogs. That's cool. They have stuff for the military, they have stuff for EMS, they have stuff for dispatchers, like they have stuff for all of us. And the coolest thing is like you can totally be incognito, which I love from an officer safety standpoint. I love it. I hate going out in public and everybody being like, yo, she's a cop. No, fuck that. I am not, you know what I'm saying? Well, I don't know where you guys live, and to each his own, but I don't like having a target on my back. So I love that stuff. Go check them out at The Badge Life. So to dive on in, we're going to be talking about how to get out of your own way today. And I know I've talked about this stuff, but we're going to talk about it in a different way. You've heard a lot of people talk about this. One of my favorite people ever to talk about stuff like this is David Goggins, because he just pumps me the fuck up. And he's essentially like, you know, if you get, you know, everybody gets in their own way, but, you know, get the fuck out of your own way, you know, and don't be a chump. And I love that. Jocko does the same stuff right along those lines. But I'm going to take it from a different approach today, because we hear a lot of that. And again, like I said, that pumps me the hell up. But I want to give you a different perspective of it today. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. Are you ready for story time? So I host, I mentor police officers, sheepdogs all around the world. I have, I think, about 30 in my Intuitive Sheepdog program right now. And it's been absolutely amazing. We started it. They are just at the end of month 2, and the results have been awesome. But what we're finding, or what I'm finding as the teacher, is my students tend to have a lot of excuses for the reasons why they're not getting things done. And it's not them in particular. It's me whenever I try to up-level my life. It's, you know, any other of my coaching clients I've ever had in the last 4 years when they are trying to do something big, trying to do something new, trying to change their life. This is typical. This is a typical pattern. We as humans, okay, we do not like change. We typically do not like change. And the part of us that does not like that change is what we call our ego. Okay, so there's two parts of us. We have our soul, our spirit, right? Same thing. Our inner voice, our inner being. That's like, you're going to hear me interchangeably talk about all that. Your gut, your intuition. It's all the same thing. And then we have our ego. Now, our ego is our conscious mind. So we have subconscious and conscious mind. Subconscious mind is like your spirit, everything you have going on in the background, stuff like that. Your conscious mind is what's up front. It's running you. Not all the time, because your subconscious kicks in a lot. But your subconscious is what causes you. Your conscious mind is what causes you to react, to do something, to not do something, to form an opinion, to freak out, fight or flight, right? That's what our conscious mind does. Saves our ass a lot, right? And our subconscious mind saves our ass a lot too. So they both have our backs in different ways. The thing with our ego, though, is it tells us, and this is what Jocko, and this is what David Goggins and or Goggins, or whatever the fuck. I love him. I just don't know how to pronounce his last name. And like a lot of, former SEALs and a lot of very successful people in our industry, first responder industry. This is what they're going to tell you. Just move through it. You just got to fucking do it. It's your mind. It's your mind. Yes, they're so right. It is our mind, but you need to know what part of your mind that's fucking with you, and that's your ego. Your ego is telling you don't need this. Your ego is telling you don't need to level up. You don't need to put in the 5 to 10 minutes a day that Autumn is suggesting to meditate. Like, why listen to that crazy bitch anyways, right? Like, that's literally the thoughts in your mind. And the thing about that is it goes on this like hamster wheel. It's also the same mind that is like, oh my gosh, I'm failing. I'm a failure. I'm a piece of shit. I'm never going to be successful. I'm fat. I'm disgusting. I'm overweight. I'm this. I'm that. That is your ego mind. It is not going to help you be successful in up-leveling. It just isn't. Okay? It's going to help you be successful in other areas. When you're setting out to do something new, when you're setting out to change your life, I want you to know that it's going to be hard. It is going to be hard. It just is. There's no getting around it. Because if it wasn't hard, then everybody would do it. Everybody would be fucking fantastic. That everyone would be rich. Everyone would be famous. Everyone would be so happy. But the truth is what? What's the truth? Very few people are rich, happy, and feel a lot of joy in their life. That is the truth. And so, the question becomes like, why is that? Why does that happen? And the answer to that is because there's a lot of people that don't know how to move through what their ego is telling them. They don't know how to move through this. And so I'm going to help you. But the first thing I need you to know is that you're normal. If you're sitting here and you're like, when I take courses, like I don't finish them, I have a hard time. Like you tell me to meditate, Autumn, and I have a super hard time. Like I do not like meditating. I don't like quieting my mind. I don't like journaling. I don't like reading books that are good for me. I prefer to read, something else. Like I want you to know, one, you're normal. Like you're normal if you want to be average with society, right? Like that it's normal. You're not weird. You're not different. You're actually the same. But you don't want to be the same, right? Like you don't want to be the same. Intuitive sheepdogs, they aren't the same because they up-level. They're up-leveling and changing their life so that they can actually hear and follow their intuition and follow the intuitive impulses, right? That's why you're here with me is to change and develop. I mean, that's why you're listening to a podcast, right? Is to expand your mind. So you're already one step in the right direction, whether you're in my program or you're not. You're sitting here, you're listening to me, and you're expanding your mind. So bravo. But when I tell you to, hey, take 5 minutes and just chill, visualize, journal, meditate, breathe deeply, box breathe, do something, and you sit down to do it or you don't, but when you start thinking about it, you're like, fuck that, that's your ego stopping you, okay? And you've got to work through it. Now, I have a different approach than, let's say, Jocko and David Goggins. I have a different approach, okay? They're like, fuck it, move through it. You just got to fight it. Don't be a pussy. Fucking let's kick some ass. Let's do it. My approach is a little bit different. I don't disagree with them. Like there's sometimes you need to do that. Like I'm going to give you another story. So I run, if you don't know, I run about every other day. And I don't run far, but I run about 2.5 to 3.5 miles, sometimes 4. It just depends on my day. It depends on my mood, but I've committed to myself and my body. Like we run every other day because that's what my body likes. It has ever since the police academy. And when I don't run, she's not happy. So, doesn't mean I like running because I don't. So where I live, it literally is uphill both ways. It's fucking insane. The running route sucks. It just sucks. Okay. And on the way back is this one really steep hill. And it is a mind fuck for me. Okay. Because I can run up it. I run up it almost all the time, but there are some runs where I feel like, oh, you just ran 4 miles. Like you don't need to run up this hill. Like take this little break. And that is the part of our mind that we need to squash. Okay. And like, that's where I believe pushing through is fine. As long as like your body's not killing you and you're not going to like really severely injure yourself and be out of work and stuff like that. Like it's very important to listen to your body, but it's also important for you to know and be able to distinguish between the voices. What voice is helping you out and what voice is going to keep you, a basic bitch. We don't want you to be basic, So I think it's important for you to just understand a few things, okay? I think it's important for you to understand, like, one, you hearing those voices, it's like your mind being like, no, you don't need to do this. When you sit down to meditate, all you do is think. Fuck journaling, fuck anything, that's like remotely a little bit spiritual. Like, I just want to tell you that, like, that's normal. But the second thing is like, you need to understand that you need to move through it. You need to witness it. This is what I have my clients do, is I have them witness it. Be like, oh, okay, so this is how it feels to not want to meditate today. Okay, well, how does it feel? Well, I just don't want to. Well, why don't I want to? Well, because A, B, and C, right? And so you kind of have this conversation in your head. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do it anyway. Even if I only do it for 2 to 3 minutes, I'm just going to sit down, clear my head, box breathe through my stomach, take some deep breaths, and really just try to clear my mind for a few minutes. Like, I'm going to get connected to the universe, get connected, grounded, whatever. So that's going to help you move through it. And I just want to say, like, I just want to reiterate, like, basic people don't do this stuff. This is the stuff, you guys, that is going to make you stellar. Like, go around and look at anybody who's really fucking good at what they do. Like, obviously they're doing beyond what normal people do in whatever area, whatever category they're good at. Like, let's take a look at it, like a sniper. Okay. I don't know anything about sniping, but let me just tell you, obviously, they put in some serious work. They put in some serious training. They have to get their body aligned with their mind in order to be successful, right? And so they're going above and beyond what basic people would do. That's why they're the sniper. That's why, you have a commanding, officer, a lieutenant, whatever the equivalent is to, like, a TAC team. This person has obviously gone above and beyond, whether they've put in their time, whether they've gone and done trainings, above and beyond. This person has done more than what the average person, around them is doing. And I think that this is important too, is not comparing yourself. Like, you got to be careful when we compare, right? Because, like, that's a whole nother podcast and I'll get into it with you. But, like, I just want to say this for, in terms of what we are speaking about today, you need to be careful with who you're comparing yourself to. Like, are you comparing yourself to other cops, or are you comparing yourself to, the people around you? Like, civilians, like your family, this and that. Like, you need to ask yourself, like, okay, like, here's what I would encourage you to do, because it matters, because which one group will allow you to settle and then another group will not. Okay. So, like, for example, if you're comparing yourself to, let's say you either want to be on the TAC team, or like some specialty team, or you're on it. You're going to need to start to compare yourself to them. If you want to be like them, if you want to be on their level, or you want to be better than them, you have to start comparing yourself to them. You don't get to compare yourself to, people who are not on that team. Does that make sense to you? It's extremely important for you to understand that, because if let's say you want to go SWAT, right? You're either SWAT or you're not. That's what my old FTO used to tell me all the time. So sometimes I say that. So if you want to go SWAT, then why the hell are you comparing yourself to, like, other civilians? Oh, well, like, I did more than George. George is, I don't know. He's a mailman. There's nothing wrong with a mailman, but the mailman is not going to be as prepared as, and, on their game and the area that you need to be on your game when you're trying to be SWAT. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really need to kind of hone that in. And I'm going to tell you, that's another ego thing. Oh, well, I did more than, like for an example, another story time. So in my family, I am probably the only one in my entire family on both sides that exercises consistently. I've exercised consistently since I've been really young. I started in karate, 5 days a week, which then I, did a bunch of sports in high school, continued with karate, then, continued with karate, and then got into the police academy. And then ever since I was a cop, I've always kept up my physical fitness. And so, like, I'm about 30 years old, and that is for me and my family and where I grew up. Like that is that's really unusual for somebody to go and run the way that I run and do CrossFit and train jiu-jitsu and do all the things that I've done and do consistently. So if I were to go and be like, well, I ran 3 miles today, and be like, well, that's more than anybody in my family, so I can take the week off. Like, I'm definitely far more accomplished than anybody in my family. I can take the week off. Like, that's true, right? And that's your ego sitting here being like, yeah, great. You did good. Pat on your ass. Like, now we're done. But what's the truth? The truth is what about, like, the people you want to surround yourself with? Are they running only once a week? No, guarantee you that they aren't. If you want to be around top-notch people, if you want to be the best, if you want to be top-notch, then you're going to be an extreme. You're going to be an anomaly. Like, that's just the way that it is. And so I just want you to be paying attention to that. Like, when you allow yourself to sit back and be like, okay, who the hell am I comparing myself to? Because, Joe Shit the Ragman is obviously not meditating and writing in a journal and blah, blah. But I'm going to tell you something. These very successful Navy SEALs like Jocko and David and whoever is successful. Like, for me, I love Tony Robbins. And he'll sit there and tell you, like, they'll all sit there and tell you, like, we take time for us. We do what others won't in order to be the best, in order to be on our game, in order for us to, be at the level that we're at. And so when you feel like you don't want to anymore, you have to. And every reason that I spelled out for you today is why. And don't let your ego stop you. It's, and the biggest way, so the question's like, well, Autumn, how do I not allow that shit to get to me? And the biggest way for you to not allow that shit to get to you is to meditate. Like, at first it's going to fuck with you, but the more that you meditate, the more that you quiet your mind, the less this stuff is going to mess with you, the less you're going to allow your ego mind to run you, and the more you're going to allow your subconscious, your inner being, your spirit to run you. And that is what you want to run you, because when you are doing that, you are aligned to who you are at soul level, and your life becomes very fucking happy. You become very happy. You start feeling feelings that you haven't felt in a really long time because you're fucking happy. So I hope that this was informative. I hope you got a lot out of it. If you have questions, as always, slide into the DM on Instagram. You can follow me at Intuitive Sheepdog. Listen up, if you're not on my if you are not on my email list, you want to get on, there'll be a link underneath this to just sign up for my newsletter. I email you a couple times a week. It's all content based. Sometimes I'll let you know when the podcast comes out. Sometimes I'm going to give you, just some knowledge bombs I'm not dropping anywhere else except on my newsletter. So make sure you are on that. If you haven't checked out our podcast sponsor, check them out at The Badge Life on Instagram. And other than that, Sheepdogs, if you haven't reviewed this podcast, I'd appreciate it. You can help a sister out. Other than that, I will talk with you next time.